today's episode of Everything About European Cricket, we are talking about Croatia. So let's see what they have to say.
In a country like Croatia, it's a bit hard to kind of develop women's cricket because a lot of the focus is mostly on traditional sports like soccer, basketball, handball, volleyball, and so on, and swimming and athletics. And cricket is one of the non-traditional sports in Croatia. In 2001, we became an official affiliate ICC member.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, from 2003, we had the ECC kind of qualifiers, championships. And that was going on for about maybe 8 or 9 years till about 2013. So every year we had our domestic competition. We had juniors, and we did have a women's team back then also. And the women's team consisted mostly of partners, spouses, cousins, and family friends. So we actually had, I think, 2 back then. But as every federation, there are the highs and there are the lows. So after we kind of finished our European qualifications and our European tournaments, that was back in 2013. And kind of our federation went into a bit of a low from 2013 to about 2019, 20. So we did kind of maintain our domestic league and so on, and a bit of our junior league. But unfortunately, our women's kind of teams kind of, I wouldn't say disappear, but, you know, as life goes on, our players, you know, moved, new jobs, some got married, and they moved around, moved in a country. Some came back to Australia, some left for other countries. So half of our women's players were Australian, Croatian background, but who lived in Australia. To be honest with you, thought, you know, Croatian cricket would kind of disappear in all aspects.
Was that just because people were moving back, or were there other factors, do you think?
Well, there were other factors. People moving back, just job factors. People were getting older, you know, or in our kind of later stages, you know, early 50s, 40s, early 40s, and so on. The enthusiasm wasn't there as much as when we first started. As I said, we did maintain our domestic league, but it could have been a lot better. There was interest there. It was just trying to find people who would gather all that interest together. That was one of the bad things which we kind of, you know, lost, was the women's teams there also, because we had a women's team for about 4 or 5 years. So from about 2000 and I would say 6, 7 to about 2010. And that women's team, they played with the men's and with the juniors. So it was kind of like a modified team. It was all pretty much locally, domestically, you know, weekend cricket, Sunday crickets, apart from, you know, us men playing our games, they played their games. If they couldn't have the 11, then we kind of helped out with our juniors. We had girls there also, you know, teens and primary school and high school girls playing. So, and obviously some junior boys. So it was kind of like a modified version, but it was good. You know, he was better than having no women at all playing. I took over the reins of the federation last year, and I'm happy to say and fortunate to say that we have approximately 7 or 8 board members on our federation board members. And apart from our senior men's team, we are all very keen and very focused to develop once again women's cricket and juniors cricket. But women's cricket is a big focus for us. And hopefully this year we will have our, I wouldn't say first team because we already had one, but our first team again in Croatia after a decade, pretty much. We're trying to get 8 teams in a 2 to 3 year period, because we know it's a pretty much not a short process. It'll be a 2 or 3 year period where we'll be able to get 8 teams. But this year we will definitely get 1 team, and that's a good start. And then as the months go on, we're hoping to get maybe another team by the end of summer and so on. So our kind of focus yet again would be family members, cousins, family, friends who have played before, and just try to get, you know, more interest from other players. Second thing is, which is a big thing in Croatia, we have a lot of expats. So that's one of the, I would say, places where we would try to gain interest and look for players. And also obviously locally. So through schools, through communities, and so on. So we'll try to first basically go with the kind of plastic bats and ball, and then generally quietly introduced like in a hard bats and stumps and pads and a proper cricket ball and all that. So, and what I've noticed is a lot of the women here do have interest. It's just obviously finding time, finding the obviously we have the location and we have the equipment. It's just finding time and finding the kind of group, because it's a lot easier finding 5 or 6 women or teenage girls or something like that in groups, because they kind of bring each other and they kind of invite each other to play these to play cricket. So that's one of the focus which we're trying to do, and just through mouth of word, through the internet, Facebook, and through local Facebook pages and so on. That's kind of our way of promoting Croatian cricket for starters.
Are there any schools that play cricket really?
They're not weekly training. We've had schools where we've had a one-off kind of training session, and we had 2 or 3 schools last year. We had some invitations for this year, but then the corona situation hit again, Croatia, and there were restrictions for indoors. So we couldn't do, because we were planning on doing indoor cricket first. It just makes it easier. That wasn't possible. So now we're waiting for the next school season, 2021-22, and that's from September onwards. We already have a school in Zagreb, and that's, funny you would say, a British international school.
Yeah, and so that's girls and boys playing.
That's correct, yes. So girls and boys with over 200 almost students from year 1 to year 12. We have for now 4 to 5 cricket centres in Croatia, and every cricket centre is run by a development officer. So we give the autonomy to every development officer to run his own kind of program. And I mean from women's cricket, junior cricket, and to senior men's cricket. We have one cricket centre where one of our development officers can possibly be a woman.
Amazing, because that's good. If you've got a woman at the top, almost it's kind of see it to be it thing. Girls can see that there's someone running it, and so that they're like,
exactly,
well, I can get involved too. It's always quite difficult to start something when you haven't got that kind of role model, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, and to have a role model that's a player, they have to have been playing for a while. But like you say, when you've had this decade almost blackout, you've got to have the role model in there somewhere. So if you have her in the position of power that's not necessarily a playing position, it's still visibility, isn't it?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes. Well, and hopefully she'll be on our board. She's actually a partner of a certain cricket player, but is willing to kind of get interested and involve herself in cricket with her partner also. I don't know her name, but her partner's name is Viraj Bama. She's played a few games, and then she would like to get interested into involving and contributing and developing women's crickets. First of all, through like community sports and obviously through schools.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing is that he is so keen to get her involved. It's not just feeling like cricket is my thing. It's like my wife is really keen. Right. She'll get involved. She's going to get more girls playing. That's what's quite nice. That it's men supporting women as much as women supporting women.
Yes, you're definitely right. And plus, a lot of our players do have daughters, granddaughters. So that's another kind of thing which we're trying to focus on. Bring them into the game, because they already see the game from when they come to the game and watch their cousins and their fathers. So that's another thing. But yeah, she would be obviously our first kind of development officer. That's a woman. And from then on, we're trying to kind of focus and develop it. Once we kind of get it introduced in Zagreb as a capital city, then it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. If you find that sort of center point, then it can spread from there, can't it?
Exactly. That's our kind of plan or idea. And and just with that school that we have, we're trying to make that school as a centre, and then obviously just expand it to other schools and so on.
Within how many years would you be hoping to have
we plan
competitive international side?
International, that's a very hard question. By 2 to 3 years, so by 2022-23 season, we're hoping of having 8 teams. Unfortunately, with the international, as you can see now, the next World Cup is just now around the door. So that's kind of out for us. So we will have to obviously wait for the 4 kind of year cycle, and that'll probably be 2025. That's of course, apart from any kind of locally European competitions, which we will straight away enter, but like an ICC qualified recognised tournament, that'll be probably 2024, 2025, hopefully. We always encourage like Tri-Nation series Four Nation Series, regional tournaments. So all of those tournaments that kind of develop our cricket, men and women, we always encourage that, and that's like a stepping stone for the future ICC qualifications for Europe.
And so would you run, if you did things like that, would you run a sort of women's tournament alongside the men's as a joint?
Exactly.
Because then you can do both at the same time, don't you?
That's correct. So it'll be like a junior tournament, women's tournament, and a men's tournament. So the Croatian T20 men's, women, and juniors, and that'll be organised over like weekends when people obviously are free from work.
Yeah.
And that'll be obviously during summer. We would also like to organise a winter league, and that's indoors, and that's in March, February. So obviously it's like indoor cricket, and that kind of, I think, to be honest with you, helps us a lot more because smaller teams, a shorter version of the game of cricket, and I think it's more entertaining, to be honest with you. Indoor cricket has its advantages, and for kids and for women, when they see it, they don't have to run as much. They don't have to. It's not a lot of endurance and so on, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it's all enclosed. So we do have a summer season cricket and a winter. And our summer goes for about 3 months to 4, and our winter just goes for about maybe a month or 2 weeks. We have one tournament. It's called the Mediterranean Cricket League. So that's been running for the past 4 to 5 years in Croatia, and that's like a men's T20 league tournaments. And hopefully, if not this year, next year, in 2022, we're hoping on forming a Mediterranean Cricket League for women. So what we're trying to do next year is possibly bring one team, women's team, to compete in our men's tournaments, because we had to cancel it for last year and for this year because of the corona. But hopefully next year, if we do have it, we'll be totally open for a women's team to compete in the men's Mediterranean Cricket League. And it's a tournament which consists of 6 teams. And that's a kind of an introduction to gradually, in the years to come, form a Mediterranean Cricket League for women's team only.
I have this image of a film set. You know, the women turn up and everyone's like, oh, who knows what they can do? And then they beat everyone and win. I can see it happening. Well, we can sell the movie right now.
You know, it's pretty much supported by the local and the national newspapers.
And in terms of the women's game, what is the media coverage would be like? Would they be really on board with it? Because for women,
that would be definitely,
that's something that is hugely important. It's getting that coverage, making it seen.
Yep. So in Croatia, not only in cricket, every now sport, so as I say, from soccer, handball, basketball, volleyball, there's a big increase of promotion and coverage for women's sport in Croatia. So it's a lot of potential is there. It's just trying to obviously go to the governments and asking, look, this is what it is. But every presentation, I feel that is correctly done, quality done, will gain a lot of merits at the end. And it's, as I said, it's supported by the Ministry of Sport. So our Ministry of Sport, a woman, is on board. She's our minister. And obviously, you know, I don't need to say, you know, she likes to promote and develop every kind of sport that women are playing in, and that they represent the national team, and that the national leagues are also covered by women.
And that's what's important, is that you've got that support from the top that helps bring cricket from the bottom almost. So the top is supporting the schools, supporting the clubs, the domestic league, and then in the potentially in the future, the internationals, which is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like things are pretty good for Croatian cricket. It sounds like you've got all the support in place, and it's just, I mean, last year has been quite difficult, obviously, but things are looking positive for the future, definitely.